We'll resume the program with 4 more lightning talks about exciting applications of AI. And our first speaker of this session is Professor Robin Murphy of Texas A&M University.
My research is in disasters, applying artificial intelligence to disasters, especially through the use of robots, ground area and marine robotics. I've been in 26 disasters, starting with 9/11, and it's my firsthand experience at those disasters that makes me truly believe that AI is essential in saving lives and reducing the economic consequences of disasters. As you can see, they're already in use all over the world. Drones have been used in 29 of those. Now, let's take a look at the types of life-saving things that we can do with these UAVs. Here's a simple one of using a thermal camera on a small UAV. This was the first direct saving of life. But now let's think about mitigation. We know these robots were useful at Fukushima, but what about chemical terrain derailments? Chemical terrain derailments happen 700 times a year in North America alone. Using aerial and ground robots could help a lot. But what about floods? Here's some video footage of helping prepare for a flooding event that became a national federal disaster, and that was in Fort Bend, outside of Houston, the suburbs there. Hurricane Matthew, think about the impact of that. Just in the United States alone, the death toll is now up to 35. We're looking at $6 billion of damage, not continuing with that, continuing flooding that we're having. Think of that economic loss. And just thinking of flooding by itself, it's the #1 disaster in the world, not just the United States. We have 200 deaths annually there. Since its inception, the National Flood Insurance Program has put out $51 billion in property claims to homeowners, but we're $24 billion in debt. We cannot sustain that economic loss as taxpayers. We need to apply artificial intelligence, take the use of our technologies to address these problems. And flooding's only one of the 60 that we have every year, which just directly pay out a minimum of $7 billion. Again, not sustainable. So how can we start looking at AI to do this? We think of AI, think of it not just as these UAVs or robots, but think about artificial intelligence as a way of speeding up the decisions by the decision makers so that they can make a difference. That's what we're focusing on. So you take data, for instance, AI to sort through data. One UAV flight, you get 10 flights, you've got thousands of images that you're expecting a person to look through for a missing person. A minimum of 22 hours, that's a good estimate, and now you're talking you can't find them before that person's died. But if you do it with a computer, a laptop, taking basic computer vision algorithms that undergraduates can write, we're talking about being able to do that same amount in less than 2 hours. 90% of it solved for you. Telling the responders what to look at, and then they can manually check the remaining issues. What a breakthrough in speeding up. And again, computer vision, basic machine learning. And we also see with machine learning that every disaster is different, and it becomes a where's Waldo kind of question of how to find people. So where do you find someone in this particular case in the Memorial Day floods where people have been washed, possibly 21 people are missing, washed and tangled up in debris? Well, our friends at the University of Maryland, Berkeley, using deep learning, created an algorithm that in very few images started identifying piles of debris of the right size and shape that these researchers should go and look to see if they can recover any victims. Now, what about social media, right? You see that things like this, where people are posting things, the possibility of rumors, we've seen that causing it, but you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So again, our colleagues working with us at the University of Maryland have created ways of mining the Twitterverse so that they can see things emerging, themes, things, before a hashtag actually gets declared. And that adds a lot of trustworthiness for our emergency responders in social media. Prioritizing, understanding, circulating the right information. Here you see the Red Cross. They only needed a 30-second snippet of a video that they needed to go to 1 or 3 people. They didn't need to send it to all 60 people in incident command. And reasoning and tools, a very important part of artificial intelligence. These are 2 tools that I really like where you're using GIS, but also bringing in, as you click on things, additional information that you may have forgotten about or didn't know existed, and pulling that in as a reminder system. But don't just take my word for this. Artificial intelligence is critical for disasters. We have a report from the NSF and the CCC on this, the crisis computing, and I hope you'll take a look at that and agree with me. AI is essential for government, industry, and academia to continue to invest in. Thank you.